at 59 years old. Pastor Clarence McClendon, one of the most widely discussed figures in today's church world, has found himself caught in the middle of a storm that has left many of his followers completely shaken. For years, quiet whispers and rumors have floated around about his marriage, his ministry, and even his private life. But now, after keeping silent for so long, his wife has finally spoken up, and what she revealed confirms exactly what countless people had suspected all along. Believe me, you don't want to miss the truth behind this revelation, because it flips upside down everything we thought we knew about the McClendons. Welcome back to the channel, the place where we uncover the stories that mainstream outlets avoid, the scandals, the hidden truths, and the revelations that rattle both the church and the culture. Today's spotlight is on none other than Pastor Clarence McClendon, a man whose ministry has touched thousands, whose music has crossed international borders, and whose influence stretches far beyond the pulpit. But behind the sermons and the spotlight, a lingering question has always remained, one not about his preaching or his music, but about his personal life. For years, people quietly questioned the true state of his marriage, the role his wife actually played in his ministry, and whether or not the rumors surrounding them held any truth. And now, for the very first time, Pastor McClendon's wife herself has stepped into the conversation, finally addressing the speculation. What she revealed didn't just confirm old suspicions.
It also opened the door to bigger conversations about faith leadership and the cost of living life under constant public scrutiny. Stay with me, because in this video we're breaking it all down piece by piece, from Clarence McClendon's early rise in ministry to the controversies that shadowed him, and finally, to his wife's powerful confirmation that left the entire church community stunned. You will not believe how this story unfolds. Just wait until you hear the part nobody else is talking about yet. To really grasp why Pastor McClendon's wife's revelation is so explosive, we first need to step back and look at who Clarence McClendon is, and why his life has always been under such intense examination. Born on June 7, 1965, Clarence Eugene McClendon wasn't just another church kid. From early on, people noticed something set him apart. By 15, he was already preaching with the confidence of someone far older. By the age of 19, he had become a full-fledged pastor, something few can even imagine at such a young age. His rise wasn't slow, it was meteoric. Almost immediately, he became known as a prodigy in the pulpit, combining dynamic preaching with a rare musical gift that separated him from others in ministry. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, McClendon was gaining international recognition. His gospel music and worship anthems struck chords far beyond his congregation. Charismatic, stylish, and commanding on stage, he drew comparisons to major names in both ministry and entertainment. Many saw him as the future of the Black church, a leader who could balance tradition with modern influence. But here's where it gets even more interesting. With success comes visibility, and with visibility comes scrutiny. From the very beginning, Pastor McClendon's life wasn't only about sermons and songs, it was also about image. The flashy suits, the grand stage productions, the polished television appearances all painted a picture of a man living on another level. But they also raised hard questions. Was the lifestyle too extravagant? Had the ministry turned into more of a brand than a gospel mission? Still, even with criticism swirling, McClendon's reputation as a pastor, recording artist, and televangelist only continued to rise. His appearances on shows like Preachers of LA gave audiences a closer glimpse into his life, but also opened the door to even heavier criticism. Fans admired him, while critics accused him of being too focused on money and fame. And as his public profile climbed higher, so did the whispers about his private life, especially concerning his marriage. This is where the story begins to change, because while McClendon was gaining influence in the pulpit, the rumors tied to his relationships and family life were slowly simmering in the background. Those whispers would eventually become impossible to ignore. As Pastor Clarence McClendon's ministry reached greater heights, something else started to follow him everywhere: rumors. And unlike the applause he earned for his preaching or the admiration for his music, these whispers were darker, far more personal, and usually centered on his marriage. Now, let's be clear, when you're a high-profile pastor living under constant spotlight, it's almost impossible to keep your private life truly private. Every move you make, every picture that surfaces, every word that slips out can instantly turn into fuel for speculation. But in McClendon's case, It wasn't just speculation, it was controversy. One of the earliest and most shocking turning points came with the end of his first marriage. Many longtime followers still remember how stunned they were when news broke that McClendon and his wife at the time had separated. Within the church world, especially for pastors who preach about family values and marital commitment, divorce isn't just painful, it's scandalous in the eyes of critics. For supporters, this became the first real red flag. It was a sobering reminder that even men of God are still human, but things escalated quickly after that divorce. Clarence McClendon remarried not long after, and this is where the whispers grew even louder. People began to ask, was the divorce truly handled biblically? Was there overlap? Did his drive for ministry success interfere with his family life? These questions swirled across church gossip circles, Christian blogs, and even in mainstream conversations. To make matters worse, shows like Preachers of LA highlighted the lavish lifestyles of pastors like McClendon. Viewers saw the luxury: cars, expensive homes, designer wardrobes, and behind it all, a man who seemed to live far differently than the quiet, humble pastor most were used to. Add in the fact that his new wife became a visible presence alongside him, and the speculation went into overdrive. Public perception split in two. On one side were loyal followers, defending him and saying, the man is anointed. His personal life is his business. God forgives, and so should we. On the other side, critics fired back. How can he preach holiness and commitment when his own household is in disorder? Is this ministry truly about God or more about image and lifestyle? And here's the kicker. The harder McClendon tried to keep the focus on ministry, the deeper people dug into his personal life. Every sermon, every appearance, every social media post was scrutinized. People weren't just listening to his words anymore, they were hunting for hidden meanings, subtle clues, or even unspoken confessions about his marriage. Yet through it all, one voice remained absent. His wife's silence spoke volumes. For years, she remained mostly quiet, rarely addressing the rumors directly. That very silence only added fuel to the fire. Some interpreted it as quiet dignity, while others saw it as secrecy. And it was this silence that made her eventual confirmation so explosive, because while the public kept speculating, McClendon's wife already knew the truth. And when she finally did speak, she didn't just confirm what people suspected, she offered the world a rare glimpse behind the curtain of a marriage lived constantly under a microscope. But before we get to that shocking revelation, we need to understand the pressure cooker they were living in, the intersection of faith, fame, and family, where every decision was magnified and every misstep turned into a headline. That's where things take a dramatic turn. One of the hardest realities for any public figure, especially a pastor, is that your life never truly belongs to you. For Clarence McClendon, that reality was amplified by his dual role as both a spiritual leader and a celebrity figure. His platform was global, his influence undeniable, and yet the very thing that gave him reach also made his life a target for endless scrutiny. Think about it. On Sunday mornings, thousands of people would hang on to his every word, waiting for inspiration and guidance. His sermons and music videos were broadcast into living rooms across the world. But once the cameras shut off and the lights dimmed, McClendon had to go home to the same challenges we all face: marriage struggles, financial decisions, raising children, and trying to balance personal happiness with professional responsibilities. The difference? His struggles weren't private. They were magnified, dissected, and judged by millions of strangers who didn't live in his house. And that's where cracks in the image began to appear. The pressure of fame isn't just about what people see, it's about what they expect. Followers expect perfection, consistency, and integrity. Critics expect scandal, contradiction, and failure. In the middle is the man himself, trying to exist as a flawed human being with real emotions. For McClendon's wife, that pressure was even more intense. She wasn't only married to a man, she was married to a brand, to a global platform, to a pastor whose name carried weight far beyond their home. Every step she took, every outfit she wore, every word she spoke could be twisted into evidence either for or against the rumors. Was she truly happy? Was she genuinely fulfilled? Was she standing by him out of love or out of duty to the ministry? These were the questions whispered behind closed doors, often forgetting that behind the titles and the stage lights stood a woman with her own truth. To complicate things even more, the show Preachers of LA brought their lives into sharper focus. What was pitched as a behind-the-scenes look at ministry became, for many, just another reality TV drama. Suddenly, the wives of pastors weren't just background figures, they were storylines. And with that, the rumors about McClendon's marriage found a brand new stage to play out. But here's where it becomes nearly unbearable. While viewers debated whether his marriage was real or falling apart, the couple was quietly carrying the weight of their private battles. Now, imagine trying to work through disagreements, insecurities, or personal growth while the entire world speculates about your every move. For most couples, challenges like that would be enough to break the relationship. For the McClendons, it became fuel for years of rumor and gossip. And yet, through it all, his wife stayed mostly silent. No interviews, no lengthy social media posts, no tell-all confessions, just quiet composure. Some praised her for it, calling it dignity in the face of constant gossip. Others insisted her silence was proof something was being hidden. But as we know now, silence doesn't last forever. In the end, truth always finds its way out. When McClendon's wife finally chose to break her silence, what she revealed didn't just confirm the long-standing rumors, it forced everyone to rethink everything they believed about the man, the marriage, and the ministry. And here's the shocking part: her words didn't merely validate years of speculation. They exposed the human side of a couple placed on a pedestal they never truly asked to be on. And what she shared left the church community absolutely stunned. For years, Pastor Clarence McClendon's wife had remained a quiet presence in the background, supportive, visible, but never outspoken about the whispers surrounding their marriage. While critics, bloggers, and even members of his own congregation speculated without end, she carried herself with composure and dignity. But at 59, she finally decided the time had come to address the elephant in the room. And when she did, the truth she unveiled sent shockwaves throughout the faith community. So what exactly did she say? According to those close to her, she acknowledged that much of what had been whispered about their relationship wasn't just empty gossip. For years, talk of strain, difficulty, and heartbreak had circulated, and for the very first time, she admitted their marriage had indeed been tested in ways most people couldn't begin to imagine. She revealed that being married to Clarence, man constantly under the spotlight, constantly performing, and constantly judged, came with a heavy price. The cost wasn't just public opinion, it was her personal peace. She confirmed there were times of tension, moments when the demands of ministry overshadowed the needs of their home, and seasons when she felt more like a supporting character in his public life than an equal partner in their private one. Now, pause for a second. This revelation is monumental. Why? Because it completely changes the narrative. For years, critics accused McClendon of living one life in public and another in private, while his supporters fiercely defended him, insisting the rumors were either exaggerated or flat out false. But with his wife finally confirming that some whispers held truth, the balance shifted. Suddenly, critics had validation while defenders were forced to reconcile their loyalty with reality. But here's where her words carried even more weight. Instead of tearing down her husband or airing every painful detail, she framed her revelation with honesty and compassion. She spoke of the unique burden that comes with being a pastor's wife, how you're expected to smile through pain, stand firm through storms, and project perfection even when your heart is breaking. She admitted there were moments when the image of their marriage didn't reflect the reality inside their home. And in doing so, she confirmed what many suspected all along. Even in ministry, behind pulpits and cameras, real people wrestle with real struggles. But let's be clear, this wasn't just a confession. It was a declaration of survival. She revealed that despite the struggles, the rumors, and the crushing pressure on their marriage, they chose to face their battles head-on, sometimes in silence, sometimes in tears, but always with a determination to keep moving forward. This balance of brutal honesty about the pain, yet unwavering commitment to the partnership, is what shook people to their core. For followers who had placed Clarence McClendon on a pedestal, it was humbling. It reminded them their pastor was not superhuman, and neither was his wife. For critics, it felt like vindication, a confirmation that the polished image had never been the whole story. And for many others, it was a wake-up call about the dangers of idolizing leaders without acknowledging the personal sacrifices made by those closest to them. Yet, perhaps the most powerful part of her revelation wasn't the admission of struggle, it was the message she left behind. She spoke about forgiveness, resilience, and the importance of separating a man's divine calling from his human flaws. She urged people not to use their marital struggles as a reason to dismiss his ministry, but instead to understand that behind every leader lies a human story filled with challenges. And that's what made this moment so impactful, because rather than tearing him down, she chose to stand in truth while still standing beside him. She didn't outright deny the rumors, she reshaped them. She admitted that the whispers weren't completely without merit, but she also stressed that their journey was one of endurance, growth, and above all, grace. And here's the part no one could have predicted. Her admission didn't just alter how people viewed their marriage, it reignited debates across churches, forums, and communities everywhere about what it truly means to live a life of faith under constant public scrutiny. Pastors' wives across the nation started opening up about their own hardships. Inspired by her courage, some confessed that her words gave them the freedom to finally acknowledge their own struggles. Others said it only deepened their respect for her because of her honesty and vulnerability. The moment her words confirmed what many had long suspected, the reactions came instantly, and they were deeply divided. Some supporters were shaken, trying to reconcile the flawless image they'd always tied to Clarence McClendon and his wife. Others applauded her bravery, calling it one of the rawest and most authentic moments they'd ever seen from a woman who had spent decades in the shadows of her husband's ministry. On social media, discussions blew up. Hashtags with McClendon's name began trending in church spaces, while bloggers and online commentators dissected every line of her statement. Inside church pews, whispers only grew louder. Some asked, "Can we still look to this man for spiritual guidance, knowing his home wasn't as perfect as it looked?" Others pushed back, saying, "Doesn't this prove pastors are human too? And doesn't it make their testimonies more powerful because of the struggles they've endured?" What was most striking about the aftermath, however, was that her admission pushed the conversation beyond gossip to something far deeper: the crushing and unrealistic expectations placed on pastors and their families. For decades, church leaders have been elevated to almost mythical status, expected to maintain flawless lives under the spotlight. But McClendon's wife shattered that illusion. Her raw honesty made people confront the reality. Behind every sermon stands a man. Behind every smile is a woman, and behind every polished public image lies a story filled with sacrifice, pain, and perseverance. For Clarence McClendon himself, the revelation became a defining moment. While critics doubled down, claiming her confirmation validated their doubts, many others felt an even deeper connection to him. Why? Because transparency has power. The very thing that could have destroyed his reputation instead humanized him. His ministry didn't fall apart. Instead, it ignited renewed conversations about grace, forgiveness, and authenticity in leadership. And for his wife, this wasn't just confirmation, it was liberation. After years of carrying silence, she finally voiced her truth. And in doing so, she didn't just confirm the rumors, she reframed them into a testimony of resilience and endurance. So what does it all come down to? At 59 years old, Pastor Clarence McClendon's wife finally put decades of speculation to rest. Yes, the rumors carried truth. Yes, their marriage had been tested. But no, it wasn't destroyed. Instead, what emerged was a testimony of survival, a story proving that even under the crushing weight of fame, faith, and public judgment, love and truth can endure. For the wider church community, this was a wake-up call. It reminded us not to idolize leaders as if they're flawless, but to see them as real people with flaws, struggles, and stories that mirror our own. For critics, it was confirmation. For supporters, it was a call to show grace. And for countless others, it proved that silence never heals, but honesty does. So whether you call it a scandal, a testimony, or something in between, one thing is undeniable: her voice permanently changed how we see Clarence McClendon and the marriage that's carried him through the highs and lows of ministry. But here's my question for you. Do you think her revelation will make his ministry stronger by making him more relatable, or will it damage the credibility he's worked decades to build? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I really want to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more updates on the most controversial and trending stories, and share this video with someone who needs to know the truth behind the headlines, because believe me, this story is only the beginning of a much larger conversation.